Hey there, I'm Lily. Welcome to OnDemand.Church. You could be watching this anywhere. You could be up in Canada. You could be somewhere really bright and sunny under palm trees. Well, I just want to tell you that you are in for a treat. Now, you might be watching on your mobile device. You might be watching on your computer. If you are on our YouTube channel, would you please click the link right here, subscribe. We'd love to have you a part of what we're doing here on OnDemand.Church. If you're watching on our website, you can subscribe right here as well. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics. It's about how to handle being a hot mess. Now, you might be like, Lily, why is that one of your favorite topics? Well, because I often feel like a hot mess and I need help handling it. I bet you didn't know that in the early 1900s, hot mess meant something totally different. You would eat in things called mess halls and your food would be considered hot mess. Bet you didn't know that, and you might not even know today what a hot mess is. You are gonna find out, so stay tuned. Today is the Super Bowl. If you are not from the United States, it's where the two best teams in America go head to head for the championship. So right now we're gonna jump in to an awesome interview from an NFL football player, Benjamin Watson, about how his experience wasn't quite exactly what he thought it would be. Have you ever planned your life out, or have you ever planned something that was gonna happen to you and things just didn't go your way? Well, that's what happened to Benjamin, but wait till you see what ended up happening and how God intervened.
It's amazing how God has his own purposes in his own timing. And sometimes it's different than what our timing is. I always wanted to play football, clearly, but I always wanted to play wide receiver. I grew a little bigger than a wide receiver, so I ended up playing tight end. But as a tight end, you're an offensive player. You want to score touchdowns. You want to be known for, the footballs, the passes you catch, and going through college, going through the NFL. I mean, we're talking about 20 years worth of work to be known as one of the great at your position. That's what every player wants. It was tough for me because as an athlete, you want your name in lights. You want your name to be the one they call on Sundays, scoring the winning touchdown. You want to read about yourself in the paper. And then it's funny how, as hard as that was to be in that position, my wife kept telling me, Benjamin, you be faithful in what God has given you. God had me in that position at that place in New Orleans at that time. It wasn't an accident. And I'm going to serve him right now, even though my football career isn't really going how I want it to go. He has me in this position maybe for things outside of football. Maybe there's guys that are going to get saved because I'm in this locker room and they never heard the gospel. So I went about it for 2 years doing that. And then the funny thing is, 2014, I write this blog post about Ferguson and about what happened, about my anger and my frustration, about seeing these things between police officers and men and black men on TV. And there was so much going on that summer. And I put it out there and it goes viral. I spent 20 years of my life trying to play football, and I'm known for a tackle on really defense because it was an interception and a Facebook post. And I'm like, God's got jokes, but that's how he does. He can elevate your name however he wants to do it, or he can have nobody hear about you however he wants to do it. And you realize that it's not because of anything I did, it's because he wanted to elevate me at this time. He wanted people to know something that I wrote or something that I did at this time. And it's amazing his timing, because if it would have happened any other way, my pride might have kicked in and I might have thought it was all about me. All about because I was doing so well on the fields, why people know. But I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it was him. And he just chose to do it at that time. And the whole thing turns into a book, Under Our Skin, getting real about race, getting free from the fears and frustrations that divide us. The Facebook post grows legs, and next thing I know, a publisher is calling me about wanting to do a book based on the Facebook post. So the book really follows the sequence of the Facebook post, follows my emotions about being angry, about being sad, about being sympathetic, about being introspective, about being hopeless and hopeful, and ultimately being encouraged, because the gospel gives all mankind hope. When we look at all this that's going on in our country and our world, the gospel is the equalizer that promotes unity. And so that's where our encouragement can really lie. Our job is to be ambassadors for Christ, wherever you are, wherever you talk to. We all have a sphere of influence. We never know what God is going to use with our obedience. And if nobody hears about what you do, your job is to still be obedient to what He has for you to do.
I love that question. What has He given you to do? What has God put in your heart that He's been nudging you with for a while that you're not taking steps and putting action towards? Right now, we are going to jump into a teaching from Scot all about what it looks like to be a hot mess and how to fix it. Like I said earlier, I love this topic. I am super excited to hear what points he can make to help my life a little bit. So check this out. You're going to love it, and I'll see you in just a little bit.
This is Football Sunday, and we are leveraging something that happens in culture in the United States that I love this day. And I wanted to use stories from people that we might not personally know, but we've seen play football. Maybe you're not a fan of football, but you can get behind stories that you just heard. They're real life people that have real life messes, but they've overcome their messes. We often say here at Unlock.Church that we are just a bunch of people. We are messy people helping messy people. And I want to talk about messy people today. That's what the hope is today, is that we walk out of here saying this. If you can't hang with us all the way through to the end, here it is. This is the punchline of the day. I hope we all walk out of here going, yeah, we are all messy people. No one here is not messy. Some of us are better at covering our mess. Have you ever heard of the term hot mess? How many have ever used that to explain your life? Have you ever used that I'm just a hot mess right now, right? That is a term that we use today in culture that means something different than it meant when it first came around, right? Did you know in the early 1900s they used the word hot mess to describe hot food in the mess hall? That's what a hot mess was in the early 1900s. That meant I'm going to eat warm food in the mess hall. They used it in the military a lot. And so today, it does not mean hot food. It means that you are a hot mess. That means you got a messy life. You're not got it together, but you look good while being messy. That's really what it means today, is that I wrote it like this. Today, it means your life is a wreck, but you still smile and still looking good. You're an attractive disaster. That's what a hot mess is today. You're just an attractive disaster. It's like, well, shoot, you look good having a disaster. I want to be around you. Lily, she's the children's director that you saw up here a little bit earlier. She comes in the office occasionally, not all the time, and she'll come in and just from school and just drop her bags in the office and go, I'm just a hot mess today. And she's breathing real heavy. Her hair's a little frazzly, and she's laughing when she's saying it. She's not rolling in going, crying her eyes out. She's laughing at it. And typically that's where we are. We're just like, hey, I'm a mess, and I'm kind of laughing at the mess I'm in. But you know what? We can laugh at ourselves when we're in a mess, but when we see somebody else in a mess, we sometimes can get so judgmental towards them. Oh, well, if they just parent differently, their kids would be better. Well, if they wouldn't talk to their wife like that, boy, their marriage would be so much better. If they wouldn't buy that, it's funny how we can call ourselves hot mess and be okay with our mess, but other people, we want to point a finger and say, well, you should change that. That's no good. That's just a mess. Holly and I, we realize that we are messy people. We have gone so far to put it out online. We are vlogging where we, Monday through Friday, just take a story of the day and we put it online. And really the hopes is to not show like everything intimacy part of our family, but to just be like, hey, we are pastors and we don't have it together. That Holly and I, sometimes we don't agree on, a lot of the times, most of the time, we don't agree on everything. We don't see it eye to eye because we're two individuals becoming one, right? We will have discussions, sometimes heated, sometimes one of us will go, no, that's just not how I see it. But we come together at one point after we sort it out and go, okay, this is the direction we're going to head in. I think sometimes when you say you're a pastor, it magically means you have it all together. I don't have it all together. I am a mess. If you just watch the vlogs, you'll get it. Some of the ideas with the vlogs as well is where Paul writes in the New Testament, he writes a saying, he goes, follow me as I follow Christ. And Holly and I and our family, we're just followers of Jesus. And if you watch the vlogs, you go, oh man, you pick up an idea or you got input in our, great. We're just following Jesus. And hey, if somebody watches it and they find Jesus because of it, we love the idea. And so we have the vlogs to just help people understand that we're messy. So when I say that, if you're like, are you really messy? Watch the vlogs. You will see how messy we are. See, this is something we all have in common, right? It is making messes of our lives at one time or another. See, you might be in a mess right now. You might be in between messes. You might be like, I just came out of a mess. I'm not in a mess right now. But we are either in one or we're out of one. It's like pre-mess, right? You're going to end up getting in a mess. And what do you do in the mess? What are we supposed to do? Well, what does Jesus have to say in it? You could be a mess in a family relationship. It could be relationships outside of family. It could be your GPA at school is a mess right now. It could be you have a health that's a mess. It could be work is a mess. It could be even your goals. You've set goals for the new year and you're already like, I've detonated all of those goals right now. It is a mess. Well, today we hope that we say something that would allow you to take a step in the right direction to handle the mess. We all in this room are messy. It's the mess that brings us together. It's the mess in our life that brings us together here today. People come into churches to hear a teaching from what the Bible says, what Jesus says. Why? To help us with our different kind of messes in our lives so we can go home and apply it to our mess. And so today, I hope we say something, read something, you watch the video, and in your mess, you're going, okay, I can go another day. I can overcome my mess. You're not meant to do it alone, okay? And so here's the truth about some messes. Some messes, we need help with other people to get us out of our messes. We often think that we can clean our own messes up, but it's you know it to be true. You know this to be true. Sometimes we don't want to admit it, but we need help with our messes. But it's embarrassing to either talk to our neighbor or get into a small group. We're afraid to get in a small group because, oh man, they're going to ask me some questions and then I'm going to have to answer it and they're going to know that I'm messy and I just don't want to do it. Sometimes we don't want to have conversation with Jesus because we're like, oh man, here's the deal. There are messes that you cannot do on your own. Now, I can sweep the floor and clean that up. I can do that on my own in my house, but there are things in my life that I just cannot clean up no matter how hard I try. And that's where Jesus steps into the picture. Jesus introduces a new word in the world. Okay, so our messes bring us together because we all know we're messy. And Jesus comes into the earth and he introduces a new word, and we know this word. This isn't going to be some new like theological word for you. You're going to know it. But before Jesus stepped on the earth, there was not a thing called grace. It was law. If you were of Jewish descent, there were laws that you had to follow, and if you didn't follow the law, it was an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. It was the equivalent of what you did, you got the punishment. It was no like, okay, we'll give you a second chance. If a Roman soldier caught you stealing a loaf of bread, they chopped your hand off. It was brutal because there was no grace. There was no second chances. Jesus comes into the world, jumps into all of our messes and says, guess what? I have grace for you. He doesn't come and smack us around and say, you're a bad person. He doesn't point our messes and go, you should really do something about that. He comes and says, I have grace. And grace should give us immediately, you can breathe a little bit because there's a thing called grace. It's undeserved grace. It's as parents. It's that grace for your children at times when they should get a punishment of some sort, discipline of some sort, and you go, I'll give you a second chance. Grace. Jesus enters this world with a new word. And it's this. The mess is the lens through which we discover Jesus, though. If we truly get to that spot, this is the deal with those big messes. It should point us to Jesus, that we cannot do it alone. We can't clean up our own messes. To see a mess is to step into the right direction of becoming a follower of Jesus. To recognize your mess is so big that you can't do it on your own. It's the first step. So you're already on your way of making Jesus, or you becoming a follower of Jesus by admitting that you are a mess. And here's the thing I do know, because I learned it from Jesus. Before you can clean somebody else's mess up, you got to clean your mess up. But we are so good at noticing everybody else's mess. And so here's what Jesus, he jumps into the world and he says something very profound. These are Jesus's words. And if you are like, okay, Scott, I hear you say all the time, read the Bible. Man, yep, I say it all the time. It is a wise thing for you to do. And you're like, well, where do I read? Pick up a Bible and read the New Testament. Start with Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That's the Gospels, okay? And really pay attention when Jesus is talking. Because if you want to be a follower of Jesus means Jesus has some kind of influence in my life. And so I'm going to listen to the words that Jesus says, and then I'm going to apply them. I'm going to try to do what he says. And when you don't actually, you don't reach the goal sometimes, you don't love your neighbor as much as you should, you don't get slow to anger, is slow enough, and you know it. When you mess up, that's where Jesus says, hey, I got grace for you. I got grace for you. You're trying. Great job. And so pay attention to what Jesus says when you read the Bible. It's profound. It's just the way he says things. So in Matthew chapter 7, verse 1, these are Jesus's words. So these are not my words. This is what he says. Do not judge, or you too will be judged. Do not judge, or you will be judged, okay? He goes on, for the same way you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. So the way I judge somebody else raising their kids is going to be same to me. So I reap what I sow, right? It's a biblical principle. You get back what you put in the ground. You reap what you sow. And then he goes on to, in case people are listening to this is part of the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus' first teaching. They're like, okay, in case you don't get it, he explains it like this. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? So this is what Jesus is saying. Okay, we notice, I got a little twig here. It's so small you might not be able to see it. It's just really tiny, okay? We see this in our neighbors and our family members. We see this in their life. We're like, oh my gosh, look at that mess. And Jesus' point is that in your life, you have this in your eye. You have this, and they have this, okay? I can't see anything with this in my eye. I can see a little bit around there. Jesus is making the point that, hey, we're all messy people. Stop pointing out everybody else's mess. Deal with your mess. And here's what Jesus is really trying to get a hold of, is that when you see someone else's mess, it takes one to know one. When you recognize a mess, you know what a mess is because you have been in a mess yourself. And may it be a reminder to you not to try to step into their mess and clean up their mess, because it feels good to step into somebody else's mess and help them clean it up. But then you're missing the point of cleaning up your mess. It's a reminder to deal with our messiness. Now, most of us, we just want to sweep our messes under things. Like we tell our kids to go clean their room or go clean the playroom. They actually just stuff things in places. It's not really cleaning up. They're just like, well, if you don't see it, you'll think it's clean, and then you lift up something and it's all crammed underneath there. That's what we do in our own lives as adults. Is we go to clean up and we just like, okay, I'm going to hide things. I'm just going to make a better filter when I'm around a group of people. What if we stop doing that and just be like, okay, I need help. I got an anger problem. I got a relationship problem. I don't know how to spend my money wisely. I don't know how to treat people right. What happens when we start getting to that spot? Here's what happens, is that you begin the process of cleaning up your mess, is to recognize that when you see the mess, you have a bigger mess in your own life, and deal with it. And then once you deal with it, then you come and help someone. You know it more probably like this. You would never go to a personal trainer if you wanted to do some kind of race of some sort to someone that has never done the sport forever. You're not going to listen to them. They have no credibility, right? When I talk about Jesus and you reading his words and applying, he knows where you are and he knows how to get you where you want to be. Why wouldn't we want to listen to what Jesus says and apply them? That's all a follower of Jesus is to listen to his words and begin to apply them. And when we don't get it all cleaned up right, he has grace. I want to keep saying that because I don't want us to miss it. Have you ever said this? No one is perfect. Have you ever said that phrase? No one is perfect. I've said it. I remember saying it to my parents when I got in trouble. Mom, Dad, no one's perfect. What am I saying in that statement? When you even think it, when you set out for your goals this new year and you've already messed it up and you're going to say, well, no one's perfect. And we say it a little bit like sarcastic with a smile. No one's perfect. It's our escape, right, from the mess. No one's got it. No one is doing it right. What we are saying, there is a perfect that nobody is, though. That's what we're saying. No one is perfect. We are really saying there is a perfect that no one is. And that might be you're basing that perfection off of maybe it is what Jesus says. Like seriously, I read what Jesus says and I look at that and I go, oh my gosh, I'm not loving my neighbor how he says I should. Love your neighbor as yourself. Pray for those that persecute you. When I read that, I'm like, I mess that up all the time. Slow to get angry, I mess that up all the time. And I'm reminded that I am not perfect and I'm using Jesus' word, but maybe for you, you're not a follower of Jesus yet. But you've used the phrase that no one's perfect because there is a standard that you are trying to live by and you aren't getting it done. But you know you want to and you're going to keep trying, I'm going to get it. But here, I'm just telling you, if all you have to rely on when you can't achieve the goals that you want or that level of perfection you're looking for, if all you've got is to say, well, no one's perfect, that's a scary place to be because that is determined on you then, where Jesus steps into the picture and goes, hold on, when you see a mess, deal with your mess, but I'm not going to just tell you about your mess because Jesus, he's got words that come along and he really helps me understand I'm really messy, that I don't love the people I should and I treat people sometimes wrong and I do judge people when I shouldn't judge. Sometimes I point out at other people's problems and don't deal with mine and I'm starting to realize, oh my gosh, I'm just a messy person. And then all of a sudden people can go, well, Jesus is just a bunch of rules. If you don't follow him, he treats you badly. That's not the truth. Jesus is grace. His name isn't grace. He is, you get what I'm saying, right? He is grace. He goes, it's all right. Well, pick yourself up, brush your knees off, and let's go again. So Paul tries to sum it all up of what I'm saying today. So Paul is an author in the Bible. He wrote a lot of the New Testaments. He was a church planner. So he would have, in those days, planted a church much like Unlocked Church, just started it, and then he would write letters to the church that he started. He would say, hey, here's what Jesus was saying when he said, love your neighbor as yourself. This is what Jesus is saying when he talks about when you see a mess, deal with your mess first, then help with the mess. This is how Paul wrote it. And so I want to read from Romans chapter 3:23. And you might have heard this if you've grown up in the church. This might be brand new to you. But this is what Paul sums up what Jesus was saying just a second ago. For all have sinned. And there's that Christian word, right? Sin just means we're all messy. We missed perfection. We missed the mark. That's what sin is. That's what we've been talking about all day today. We just didn't call it sin. It was just dealing with our messes. I have not loved my neighbors like Jesus said, love my neighbors. For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Meaning God is the standard, but we have fallen short of that. And all are justified freely by the grace through the redemption that came by Christ Jesus. Where it says all were justified freely, justified means to be put in right standing at cost of nothing for you. It costs you nothing for this, what we're talking about today. And so what we want to do is, in a second here, is that the band's going to come out here and we're going to play a song. And we're going to play a song, it's called Inside Out, and as the words are sung, maybe this will be your prayer today.
1,000 times I fail, still your mercy remains. And should I stumble again, still I'm caught in your grace. Everlasting, your light will shine when all else fades. Never ending. control. Consume me from the inside out, Lord. Let justice and praise become my ways to love you from the inside out. Everlasting, your light will shine when all else fades. Never ending, your glory goes beyond all faith. And the cry of my heart is to bring you praise from the inside out of my soul. Cries out, everlasting, your light will shine when all else fades. Never ending, your glory goes beyond all faith. And the cry of my heart is to bring you praise from the inside out of my soul. Cries out from the inside out of my soul. Cries
My goodness, I needed to hear that. I am so excited to jump into this next week and start implementing the fact that I need to clean up some of my messes before I think I can go and help somebody else's mess. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Right now, we're gonna give you an opportunity to give. The reason why we give you this opportunity is so that it can help you trust God more. Now, I wouldn't ask you to do something that I don't already do. I give because it does help me trust God more. I am a college student, I work a couple days a week, and giving is not always the easiest thing to do. When I know that I need to make ends meet in certain places, giving is a little bit hard at times, but I've seen God show up in places that I can't even imagine having happened without me being faithful in my giving. So I want to challenge you guys to just, like we talked about before, taking that step of faith and saying, God, I'm going to trust you because I know you are great and I know you have plans for me. And so right now, this is your opportunity to give of your tithes and offerings. We make it really easy here at OnDemand.Church to give. You can give right on the mobile device that you're probably watching this on. You can text the word give to 77977. And if you don't remember that, just below, right above the comment section, there's going to be a little bit of a description section that says show more. You can click there to see the exact word and the exact number you need to text in order to give. I am so glad you guys hung out with us today. I had so much fun. I hope you did too. We'll see you soon. Wait, I almost forgot. You have to subscribe to this channel. Click on this dude's head. It's Scott's head right here. Click on it, subscribe so that I can see you again because I really want to, and I want you to see us again so that you can experience more of OnDemand.Church right here. If you missed last week or want to see more content, click here. We'll see you soon. We love you guys. Thanks again.